Welcome to the Watchman Weekly End Time Expose on Bible Prophecy. Get ready for teachings that will empower you for dominion as an end time believer and equip you for the times and seasons in which we live. You are now listening to the Watchman Joseph Kabuleta.
These are the days of Elijah, declaring the word.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you're listening to this. Welcome to the Watchman broadcast today as we continue our study on the end times, on Bible prophecy, and on the times and season in which we are living in. And we are living in the end times. We are living in the last days. Of late, of course, we've been talking about the seven churches of the book of Revelation and the letters to which was given to them by the Lord. But today, I would like us to actually put a reflection towards the geopolitical tension and changes in the world currently right now, and what is actually going on in the geopolitical world. Because when we put our focus towards that, we look at Bible prophecies that the Lord has, through his prophets and through the scriptures, has been given to us to know what will actually happen in these last days, and what would happen more so to the shaping of the world, how nations will be shaped up, how kingdoms will be shaped up, how territories will be shaped up, and how things will be moving around the world in terms of economics, in terms of politics, in terms of everything actually. That's why it's very vital for us to actually not always take our eyes from what is going on in the world. And this is the reason why we somehow give you some of these updates, because it helps us to know where we are headed to and where we are going and what is actually happening around us. Because the scripture says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 5 that we are sons of the day, not sons of the night. So we ought to know the things which actually are happening around the world, are happening around us, because we are sons of light and we are not sons of darkness. We are sons of the day. We are sons of the light, and we have to know the things which are happening around us too. More so now in relation to the end time, in relation to the end time, in relation to the Antichrist, in relation to the false prophet, in relation to one world government, in relation to the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. And this the Lord speaks them in signs, in things that point us to these things. So there are so many prophecies, and let me tell you this: prophecies are always exact. They are never at any point in time missing. Actually, it's not what. When the Lord prophesies, let me correct myself. When the Lord prophesies, it has to happen. It must come to pass. Now, when you see any prophecy in the scriptures, it must come to pass exactly how the Lord has spoken it. Now, our work is to study it, is to know it, and to see how its fulfillment is coming to pass. That's why we labor in trying to dig certain information, certain sources, certain places, to find out where we are headed, how these prophecies are unfolding. So previously, before we had even gone into looking at the seven churches, we were looking at the tension between Israel, US, and then of course Iran, and we were talking about how that war is shaping up the Middle East. Now, of course, we know that there was some sort of negotiations that came up, and of course around April, the beginning of April, that's when there was a ceasefire, and that ceasefire lasted for 2 weeks. And then after, Trump brought up some certain points that needed them to be heeded by both, and these were the things which they were talking about in their major points of negotiations. And of course, one of them, the main of them, were Iran was supposed to give up all their enriched uranium and also stop any kind of nuclear program. And then others were there, but that was the main one because that was what Trump was talking about. Like he wanted them to give up. Of course, also the Strait of Hormuz needed to be opened. Now, all this has been happening, but one thing that kept on going in between there was now the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran began to actually take it over and block ships passing from there. And you know that is a very important strait because 20% of global trade passes through that place, and that means that if it is blocked, then of course there will be effect on the fuel prices, oil and gas, and all these such things that normally comes from the Middle East, but also trade that is to Africa, oil and gas and all these things. But to the Europe also the same, oil, natural gas, the same thing. But then also there is also blockade of China because China also uses that place to transport some of their the products which comes from that place. So that's why there has been a lot of disruption of global trade because of all this that was happening, and that by Iran blocking the Strait of Hormuz. So that is that. But then later on there was supposed to be negotiations were supposed to continue, but Iran, which of course the negotiations were being brokered by Pakistan, but Iran did not started to drag, and their negotiations could not go on because there is a key thing which most people do not understand right now about Iran, because inside Iran there is now what we call the leadership, because for the first time in about 50 years, for the first time the leadership in Iran is fragmented, and Iran right now is in a place because, like, for the first time their leadership is fragmented, and previously it was only the supreme leader of who was the Ayatollah by then, Khamenei, who makes every final point, every final decision upon everything. But now, because of course in that war when Trump, in the beginning of March, that's when Trump actually took him out, and then now when he's out of the picture, and then several leaders, important key members of the Ayatollah regime, and those who were the diehards of the Ayatollah in the regime, and they were the ones keeping power or making sure that they were the puppets of the Ayatollah, making sure that what the policies given to them by Ayatollah remains in Iran, and the strength of Ayatollah. Most of these key leaders in the military, in also different parts of Iran, they were taken away. And because they were taken away, now the ones which were left were very fragile. Of course, there are left a few now, which is right now the president of Iran, and then also there is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which is the wing, the army, the military wing of the Ayatollah, and they are the ones who actually keep and enforce the policies of the Ayatollah. But of course there is a new one, the new Ayatollah, which is the new supreme leader. That is the one which was even injured, but of course now he has been recovering. Now, who is the son? He's the son of the former supreme leader. Now he's the one who has been there, and so many decisions right now has not been made by him, and it's only just a few that he has been making. But most of the key important decisions, because the war which was still going on was still making them weaker and weaker, so they were in panic mode, they were not organized. But that is That is what has been. And then also another leader is the foreign minister, Aragashi. That is, so he has. Those are the people who are actually keeping Iran still under that sort of the style of leadership of the Ayatollah, and keeping them under even the current Ayatollah, okay, the current supreme leader. But you right now know that the foreign minister, the president, and then the leadership of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, these three, they are the ones taking making key decisions in Iran, even regarding everything that is going on. They are the one making sure that they actually make decisions on these matters that are in Iran. So the thing is, Trump wanted to make this deal with them so that they can actually stop the war. But then the negotiators which were sent, they actually asked the negotiators that, can you guys make your own decision, and then we so that we can stop the war. That was the time when they were in negotiation, and they refused, and they said, no, we cannot make the decision. They of course they talked about who were the key decision makers right now in Iran, and the negotiators which were sent by, of course, the Iranian foreign minister, the supreme leader, and then also the Revolutionary Guard. These were the other people who actually sent, and they said, no, we cannot make any decision. It's only these people who can make. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the foreign minister, and the president. These are the three people who can actually make decision. Even in every kind of point that they bring out for negotiation, they are the ones who could do this. So now that is how the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, they are the ones who have been making sure that they hinder any kind of form to the deal, any kind of agreement to the deal. That's what they have been doing. So this has made it very hard for them to actually cooperate with Trump and the Trump administration, the people who were sent to negotiate. So that is why the negotiations has been in a strain, a very big strain. And what happened apart from that in the field of near Iran, Trump made sure that there is a naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and even Iran themselves, so they could not allow ships to enter in or get out of the Strait of Hormuz or get into Iran. That's the thing. They were hindering, and that has been creating a lot of economic turmoil in Iran, because they cannot receive or they cannot export or receive import. So that has been one of the things that has been straining the economy of Iran, because even I heard Trump was trying to talk about the very thing, and they said that he said that naval blockade is even much better than military strikes. That's what Trump said. But that was one thing that Trump was using to put them into force, and to make sure that if he forces them so that they can come and come to the point of negotiation. So that is why, those are some of the things, just to put pressure on them so that they can pressure on them by blocking every ship, nothing, no exit and no inlet and exit of any ship or to Iran. So that's one of the things that Trump has been putting forward to make sure that they do this on Iran. So it has also been reported that the supreme leader of Iran, he came out for the first time and made some public statement, which of course was a hardline kind of statement to and this hardline kind of statement, they were talking about how they are going to still stand strong, and how the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is a strong military, and Iran is strong. A very hardline statements like that, and I was talking about how they are strong and they are going to defend them. So just to show that they are not interested in any kind of a peace deal, a ceasefire, and anything, and any form of negotiation. So that has been the case, what has been happening there. But now for Trump, is faced with a position where negotiations are not going through and they are not going forward, and Iran is not agreeing to shut down their military program, nuclear program, to give up the enriched uranium which they use for nuclear, and they are not willing actually also to open the Strait of Hormuz. Now that is what Trump is faced with, and that's why he actually did the naval blockade, to pressure them so that they can actually come to the table of decisions and negotiations. So Trump is, right now I saw that Trump is actually evaluating what are the next options of this thing. And now this is where we are headed to. We are headed to a place where Trump is in a place where they can either go back to war or continue with the ceasefire. Because last week, the military of the US met and they came up with a number of options and presented these options to Trump. And one of the options was to continue in the ceasefire with the hope that what the naval blockade which they are putting will bring these Iranians to the table of negotiation and force them to negotiate, because that is very vital. That naval blockade is very vital because it's causing the whole of Iran not to receive or to take out anything. So they cannot sell oil, they cannot receive funds, they cannot receive any goods or imports or products. They cannot receive. That is what Trump is doing, and that cripples the economy, as you know. That makes them weaker. So that is what is trying to do, and that was the first option. Should they now continue in the ceasefire? Because Trump had, in the first negotiation, they said that now they are going to, it was for 2 weeks, from around April 8th to around 22nd. That was the time which was given, so that in between there they can negotiate and actually come to terms and come to a place where they can seal a deal, something which is, they agreed to stop fighting, and yes, both of them stopped fighting, and then they now continue to discuss and then come to a place where they can end that war. But then afterwards, even after when it elapsed, there was no any kind of agreement that both parties had come to. So that's why it has been in a place where yes, it has stalled, and the war is not going on so much. There is no active combat. There is no active fighting between the two. But then Trump has been putting that naval blockade, which has been a very big deal towards enforcing these guys to come to terms. Now, the military the US military, came up with another second reason, another second option which Trump can choose, and that is another military wave, which is actually like going back to the battlefronts and forcing these people to come to negotiations. So that is what Trump is faced with. He's faced with these two options: either to continue with the ceasefire and the naval blockade, or to continue or to just them to go back and actually continue in the war and force them to their knees and make sure they come to the point of negotiations and negotiate to the point where they will agree to what Trump wants to. Now, that is one thing. But I really personally, I suspect that there is going to be another wave to that war, because from what is expected is that I know that Iran will not agree. They will totally not agree to any form of negotiations which Trump is trying to bring. And this is the thing which they have been refusing for a while, not just only in these past 2 months, but for even ever since last year. They have been disagreeing all these things, mostly on their to give up their nuclear program and the enriched uranium. So they will not really agree on that. And the three, which is, and you even had like what the Ayatollah was trying to make hardline statements like, no, we are still strong, we are going to defend ourselves. So you see that this type of statements does not show someone who is broken and someone who is on their knees. Now, it's just because they have still some breath. Now, that is why they are still looking strong. And the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, they are there. They, at some point, of course, before the naval blockade, Iran had imposed charges on vessels that passes the Strait of Hormuz, and that was going to boost their finances. But now, because of Trump, now that thing has been cut off. So there is that, and I really don't believe that Iran will allow until there is going to be another wave of that war, or until maybe it will take time when they had really been drained. It will really take time, and that's why the second option can actually pass, which is the option of going back to finish the job. And why do I say this? It's because of Israel. Because Israel, they have been faced with also the battle which they have been fighting for, and that is in Lebanon. Now, if you are to look at the pictures and some of the things, I saw some guys was on social media, they were trying to say that Israel's strategy which they are using in Lebanon is similar or is the same as the one they used against Hamas in Gaza. And that is, they are trying to break down each and every kind of terror strongholds and terror infrastructures, breaking them down, blowing some of those towns, making sure that they are totally on the ground, making sure that the Hezbollah will not have any space, and mostly in this southern part of the southern Lebanon, which of course is to the north of Israel. And that one, they are breaking it down. Some of the cities and towns in those places, they are blowing them up to ashes, making sure that they are not inhabited again. And that is one of the things that they are faced with. So Israel, because they have been doing that, there was like when the ceasefire came up, Israel said that no, that ceasefire does not include them, which is the war which they are having with Lebanon. So they said no, that's the ceasefire between US and Iran does not touch them. And of course, Iran wanted it to be like that. Hezbollah also wanted it to be like that, whereby it is only like also Israel should stop blowing them. But Israel has not been agreeing to that. They have just been expanding and entering into that place and taking charge and taking over the places, the Hezbollah territories. They have been taking them down. Now, at some point they agreed and they said, yes, we are going to. But if we do, we should not be attacked by Hezbollah. So they agreed to the ceasefire, but Hezbollah kept on firing rockets and missiles into Israel. and then that's when Israel actually now started getting into that place, into those places, to make sure they blow up all those terror infrastructures. So that is what is happening in Israel. But Israel also has been telling the IDF to prepare for operations against Iran beginning this week. So now that's where we are going to actually see it linking to what Trump could agree on. Now, if Trump agrees that they will continue, that means Israel is also ready, the IDF is ready, then we are likely going to see an increase in this week, from this week actually onwards. We shall see more front open up in this same war, which is between Israel and Iran, America and Iran. So we are likely going to see it revived again, so that they actually take down some of those places and things in Iran. And I know Israel might be in point of targeting the leaders that are remaining, which is the supreme leader, the son of the former supreme leader, then the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps generals, and those leaders, those military, that the military wing, and then also even the foreign minister or even the president of Iran themselves. So that is what is likely going to happen beginning this week, continuing on forward, and we are likely going to see it happen again and again and again until a substantial effect, what normally Israel call their war goals, is met. So until we see some of those things, then we are likely going to see the war continue and actually progress. And many people have been asking me about where we are headed to in regards to Iran, Israel, and America. Now, the thing is, that war is likely going to continue. Of course, it's obvious that Trump is not the type that wants a prolonged war, but also there has been some pressures from the Trump administration and also in US of whether they should continue with the war or something like that. There's been, even in the Congress, there's been that kind of friction which was coming up to actually against the war in Iran. So that is the pressure. But I know he may not really bow down to this pressure. That's Trump, and he will actually go ahead and do that which he wants because he doesn't want Iran to actually receive these ballistic, the nuclear, specifically nuclear. These other ones of the Strait of Hormuz and all this, they can do with that. Because first of all, like what he said, is that the Strait of Hormuz, whether it's blocked by Iran or not, doesn't affect them. Because for them, they have oil. Even oil prices, yes, can increase, but also that oil coming from Venezuela is also now can supply the U.S. So it's not much of a fight of a negative impact to America on the Strait of Hormuz. That's why that's what Trump is talked about. But the real thing why he actually went there is the nuclear program. He doesn't want them to actually have nuclear program. So, like we said, Israel, their war in Lebanon, like that ceasefire, it actually, because they had agreed to actually have a ceasefire, but the ceasefire collapsed when, like I told you, Hezbollah began firing rockets and sending it into Israel. So that's how Israel the IDF had to intensify their presence in southern Lebanon and actually make sure they take down Hezbollah strongholds in the southern Lebanon. But also, one amazing thing which I saw about Israel is that they are actually getting and taking the Iron Beam air defense system to United Arab Emirates so that they can help them to intercept drones. Now, what is Iron Beam? There is, we all know the Iron Dome, which is air defense system, which can take down, intercept things like missiles, drones, and missiles, rockets, and some of those. But Iron Beam operates with a laser technology and is very effective for drones. Now, in the previous war, when Israel and Iran and US and Iran was fighting, there was the UAE. They were actually attacked badly by Iran using drones. So now this time, if the US, if Israel sends in the Iron Beam, which will help to intercept drones, that means that's a very good interceptor, and it's also a very good thing they have done for their relationship between UAE and Israel. Now, what will that do? It actually can make the relationship between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, but also some of those countries around there, like Bahrain. Of course, Bahrain, they have already a good relationship with Israel in the Abraham Accords. So that means UAE can even get into the Abraham Accords. And what does that take us into when we tie it to Bible prophecy? Is that this causes us to, you remember we talked about that there will be a certain time to come, a peace between Israel and the Arab neighbors. So some of these things that you see them do, it actually can lead us to that thing, to the peace deal, which will happen. I'm not saying that is the peace deal, but because these Arab neighbors and the Muslim neighbors, they will have to be part in they will have to be won over. Let me say that. They will have to be won over. And some of these things which Israel is doing to them can help win them over to actually participate in the future coming peace deal. And that means we are drawing closer to the peace deal. So we are tying this, which is happening, to Bible prophecy, to the fulfillment of Bible prophecy, that in the time to come, it will lead us into into that agreement. But also, it can be a good image to the other neighbors, like the neighbors of the UAE. They will start now aligning towards Israel very much, because now they will see that no, actually Israel is a good ally. If they can help us to actually intercept drones that will be coming from maybe Iran or any other place, but mostly let me just say Iran. So that would be a very good thing for the future, to build them up. So then one of the things that I saw very much is that NATO in this war, the war between US, Israel, Iran. One of the things that came up, and we saw it come up, was how NATO, which is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was a defense pact that was forged by so many Western allies to protect themselves and to engage in defending each other, which was led by America. And since most of those countries, mostly Europe, and I said Western, but you know, when I say Western, it includes even Europe. So they agreed that they were going to actually make sure they come together in terms, if one of them is attacked, and they will come together. But in this case, in most cases, some of those nations countries do not have enough combatants So what they do is they pay certain amount of, I think 2% of their GDP to the US, because US has enough combatant to protect. So now what US does is they send in peacekeeping forces, the NATO force, okay, they call them peacekeeping forces or NATO forces from America to come and protect, to go into those countries and protect, but also to make sure that they in case one of those countries is attacked, US will now join together, and also these other countries will bring up their forces. So US will, most of the time, has been protecting the peace and security of these other nations. But now, since they had agreed that they were going to come together, now this time US was in that war, US-Iran war. And because they were in that war, NATO was supposed to come because of that. NATO, the NATO nations, they were supposed to come because of that agreement, the NATO agreement. Now, they did not come. Okay, let me just say they did not come, because there were some of them who were trying to come. They were coming in the speed of a chameleon, and so this is the thing. Let me just say they did not respond, and their response was so weak, so fragile, that made Trump and even Marco Rubio and they were talking really against the NATO, and they were saying, what is now the use of NATO? Because that means we are just supporting them for nothing. And then of course there is now is this the time we needed them to come, because Trump told them, you guys come and actually involve yourself in this war and make sure. Mostly he wanted them to just go and fight for themselves, which is to open up the Strait of Hormuz. That's what he had requested them to do, but they failed to respond. So now I saw something happening, and this which came out between US and NATO, it's just a good representation of the crumbling of the Western powers, and then them breaking away from the US. Now, this takes us into some of the things we are going to do. Let's discuss it here from the book of Daniel, because the book of Daniel, and Daniel chapter 7 to be specific, Daniel chapter 7, Daniel chapter 2, also Revelation chapter 13, talks about the future world government and how they will actually form up. But today, let's just try to look at it from the book of Daniel chapter 7. It says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head while on his bed. Then he wrote down the dream, telling the main facts. Daniel spoke, saying, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, 4 winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. Now, this is a metaphor, and this metaphor is for us to understand. And we've spoken about here. It says, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, 4 winds. 4 winds, these are winds of change. And these are winds that when they blow, they cause a change to happen on earth. You see, And first of all, number 4 is the number of the heavenlies or the galaxies. Now, when this wind blows, it causes change to happen in the atmosphere, which is first in the heavenlies. And when that wind blows in the heavenlies and change happens in the heavenlies, then this wind causes change to happen on the earth. That's why here it says, the winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. The great sea is talking about change that comes on many peoples. When the Bible talks about sea, it's talking about peoples. Or water. Water is talking about many. When the Bible talks about sea or water bodies, it's talking about many peoples. if it's sea, that of course, many people. Lakes, of course, the Bible really rarely talks about lakes, but also rivers. Now, those are talking about many peoples or multitude of people. When it's rivers, of course, the number of people is less, or the territory, which is talking about less. But also, sea also talks about peoples, like it also talks about territories where these peoples are. Now, here it says that there were a change that came up from the heavenlies, and this change came to change the Great Sea, which is, what's the Great Sea? The Great Sea now is the whole globe. You see, And then verse 3 says, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. Of course, from the book of Revelation, we say that there is the beast that come from the sea, and then there's the beast from the earth. Now, the beast from the sea here is talking about now those nations that would come up. And it says that the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off. Now, the first was a lion, that is, I'll just summarize this. A lion, that is the Great Britain Empire. You can say that is in the the British Empire, which was strong at some point and had taken a lot of territory. So they had even taken the eagle, which is America. And that's why America at some point was, they got their independence from Britain and then became alone. Now that's why here it's saying, I watched till its wings were plucked off and was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and the man's heart was given to it. Now that is, but actually right now we are still seeing the plucking off of eagle's wing from the lion. Now the lion, which is of course now lion is the UK right now, but also it still involves, lion is a representative not just only of UK now, is also representative of Europe. That's a lion. I will explain more. Now, what we are seeing happening now is out of this war has come up something that is helping us to see this plucking off of the lion, because Marco Rubio was talking and said that what is it a point to be part of NATO again if these guys cannot come to actually respond to our call, which we call them to come and join this thing, the war which is happening. And because of that, then that means there is no, so we are seeing, actually what we are seeing is the plucking off of NATO, and then it's being broken away from, because Europe breaking away out of this thing, out of NATO, and also NATO breaking off from NATO, or America breaking off from NATO, and then they become standalone. Now, do you know that I was watching Business Insider on Facebook, and Macron was there, and he was saying, he was calling all the European leaders and Europe, actually he was just calling upon Europe, that Europe need to make sure they break away and they become self-reliant and not relying on America. Because he was saying that for the past 15 years, America has been thinking of only itself. And he says it didn't even start on on Trump. He said it even started with Obama. And then he said that even the previous administration, the same thing, that America is not thinking of Europe anymore, and they are just thinking of European interests, and they are just thinking only of their own interests, which of course was talking, that one he meant Trump. But he says even that did not start with Trump. It started even with Obama, because Obama says he's the first kind of he gave a certain word, Pacific president, something like that. That Obama said he's the first Pacific president. So what he was meaning is that America has become they want to focus on themselves. That's one. Number one, it says they want to focus only on themselves and not focus on European interests, because they said they have been allies for a long time, which is true with Europe. America has been a very long-term ally and partner with Europe. But it says right now we need to rethink of this ally which we have with America. And because of that, what is he trying to allude to? He's trying to say that now we need to make sure that we, Europe and the European countries or the EU, actually become our own kind of power. Now, what does that take us into? That takes us into what we're going to read next from the book of Daniel, because it is trying to show us that actually they are shaping up and coming to what Bible prophecy has prophesied. And like I started at the beginning by saying, Bible prophecy is very exact. When it prophesies something, it must come to pass. The same, exactly the way it has been spoken. Because here, verse 5 of Daniel says, and suddenly another beast, second like a bear, it was raised up on one side and had 3 ribs in its mouth, which of course we talked about it at some point, that this was the Soviet, the USSR, the Soviet Union, which is the power that comes from Russia. And Russia here is like the bear. And bear, he said, there's something I want to show you here, and had 3 ribs in its mouth. The 3 ribs in its mouth, this is a symbol of Russia, but also it's a symbol of a bear with 3 ribs. It's Russia. A bear with 3 ribs in its mouth is a symbol of Russia. Now that is one, and also these 3 ribs also represents the movements which all came up from Russia, the communistic and others. I've forgotten some. Then it says in its mouth, and they said thus to another, arise, devour much flesh. After this, I looked, and there was so that was in the history. But currently, right now, where we are seeing this happening is that we are seeing the Russian strength also arising. Because do you know that the foreign minister of Iran went to actually meet Putin? But also, we saw how there is a news which came up that China and Russia, they were privately sponsoring the war of Iran and supporting Iran. Now you see that. So it is forming up very well. But one thing I also know is that it may not actually be by Putin. And this we might talk about it another day. It may not be. Putin has to get out of the way, because Putin is kind of is a bit conservative, more conservative, and he wants to conserve. When we say conservative, then it's not globalistic. Globalistic is the movement where those guys want to bring everything. They open their borders, they bring every kind of thing, and then bring any kind of practice, LGBTQ, and that's what. But Putin does not allow that, which of course I know the bear is still, it's rising, but it may not be under Putin. That means there's still some time, which we're likely going to talk about it someday. After this, I looked, and there was another beast like a leopard that is Germany. Now, Germany, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. 4 wings of a bird. Germany is, when you read this from other translations, it says 4 wings of a cockerel, which is, a cockerel is France. Now, there's something I want to open here. let me read on. It says, the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. Now, Germany had been, there's something which you need to research about the 4 Reichs. Okay, the 4 Reichs of Germany, which are different times and different seasons where Germany tried to control the world, which started in 800 AD by Charlemagne. Then, of course, that one ended around 1800 AD. Then afterwards, there was 1871 to 1818. Then there was now, that's the Second Reich. Then the Third Reich was the Hitler Reich, which was from 1933 to 1939. That was the Third Reich. But then there is a Fourth Reich, which right now we are seeing Germany is actually rising up. And like, I think we need to talk about this this correlation of the Fourth Reich and the coming up of Germany. And then we're running out of time, but then there was the fourth beast. There is the bear, the lion, the leopard. The leopard is Germany. But then there is a fourth beast which was huge and big and had iron teeth, and that was the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire, that is the revived Roman Empire. And this revived Roman Empire, it is now currently it is the European Union, but it may not actually be the European Union. It can actually be the future one, which is to come, because currently we can interpret it as the European Union, which has taken over Europe. But it will be that which is led by Germany, and that's the Fourth Reich, which is to come. And do you know that Germany, when they were actually after the Second World War, they were under control. They were put under control. They were divided from Eastern and Western Germany, and then there was a wall that was broken, that was built in between to separate. So they were basically a divided country, and their economy was bad and nothing. But do you know that in 1979, yes, that was when the Berlin Wall fell and Germany started rebuilding and they started coming stronger. And why am I telling you this? Is because I saw how Trump, relating it to the NATO, the thing we were talking about, the NATO, how it's breaking. And then I saw Trump said that they are going to withdraw some of their forces from Germany. And they had a disagreement with that Chancellor of Germany called, I think, Friedrich Merz. They had some disagreement, and because of that disagreement, mostly because of the war in Iran. And Trump was telling these guys that the German Chancellor he has not been taught well. He has not been having a good narrative and a good understanding of why because that man has been bashing this Iranian thing, US Iran, and saying they're weak and all those things. So Trump was trying to respond. I said, no, you have not been lectured well on these matters and what is happening. And he was talking about how America is becoming weak. And so because of that, now Trump is saying that they are removing some of their troops, and next I saw they are going to remove about 5,000 troops, American troops from Germany. And then I think in total there are about 16,000 troops in Germany, US troops. Now what is that? That means Germany actually will be given now time and chance to rise, and actually when they rise, then that's when Europe is going to break off. Remember, from the beginning of this year, we talked about how Europe is going to break off mostly from America and then partner or what I can call partner, or go towards the direction of China. And we've seen how China has now begun good relations with France. Now, this is shaping us to the coming of the Lord. Why is it important? Because when you read this, after these four beasts, these Daniel's four visions, at the end of it all, when these four beasts and empires were formed, beasts, when I talk about beasts, they are empires. When those empires were formed, then that's when actually the Lord came out. And that was when the coming of the Lord that's when in the future the coming of the Lord will be. So right now we are in the place of the build-up. America is being plucked away and taken out of every form of control, every form of autonomy and governance and strength which they have. Not strength really, but dominion. Yes, dominion. And Europe, they are breaking away. And that's why what we're seeing with the NATO. NATO is being broken away out of NATO, Europe is breaking away out of NATO. And then we are seeing the rise of the two figures that are spoken of here in the book of Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. It says that, and this I looked, and there was another like a leopard, which on its back had 4 wings of a cockerel, which is France and Germany. We are seeing the rise of Germany. So can you imagine? It's only Macron. Macron is the president of France. Then we are seeing Germany. How their chancellor, Friedrich Merz, gets disagreements with Trump, and then you see that something is boiling, and this which is boiling, it will lead us into the new Europe, and that new Europe will lead us into that one world government, but also will put up a stage for the coming of the Antichrist, and then that's when the coming of the Lord will be. Now you know where we are headed to and why all these things and friction. You may think that they do not affect you, but really what is happening in the world is of key importance to the Bible prophecy. More so, whatever big event that now you see happening between nations, they are not just happening because they are actually happening, heading and leading us into the coming of the Lord, into the end time. And this is where we are. Thank you so much for listening in today. I would like to invite you to come and attend the Watchman Fellowship, which is every Friday at the Watchman grounds opposite Mukwaya General Hospital near the American Embassy. We start every Friday at 6 p.m. In that garden. Please come and grow in the knowledge and in the preparation of becoming end-time believers and knowing the times and season in which we are living in. Thank you so much for listening. Have yourselves a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time you're listening in. God bless you.
That was the Watchman Joseph Kabuleta. Join us for our Friday fellowship starting at 6 p.m. at the Watchman grounds opposite Mukwaya Hospital near the American Embassy along the main Gaba Road. To connect to the anointing upon the Watchman, you can give through the ministry mobile money lines +256 780 292 555 or +256 755 292 555. Follow us on Facebook, The Watchman, TikTok, The Watchman Ministries, YouTube, Ugandan Watchman, X at UG Watchman, Instagram at @the_UG Watchman, or email info@ugwatchman.com. For more information on how to give resources and more, visit our website at ugwatchman.com. The Watchman, the King is coming.